It looks like WWE CCO Triple H has just called out Will Ospreay for not joining WWE. Triple H was on the Pat McAfee show earlier today where he was discussing the WWE system, what he looks for in talent, and he seemed to throw a subtle jab, or not so subtle jab in some people's eyes, towards former free agent, now AEW roster member, Will Ospreay. I'm going to tell you what he said. We're also going to be discussing some comments that Brandi Rhodes made about her and Cody's departure from AEW, maybe revealing the reason why they are no longer with the company, or one of the reasons at least. All that and much more coming up in this video. Be sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Okay, so let's talk about it. Triple H doing the rounds on WrestleMania media. Pat McAfee show was at WWE World today, and it was natural that he was going to make an appearance, but the question was, what was he going to talk about? Maybe he was going to build on the show. Maybe he was going to hype the show. Maybe he was going to talk about how this is going to be the biggest, greatest WrestleMania ever. Well, he did all of those things, but what's caught a lot of people's attention are some comments that he made that have people talking that Triple H called out Will Ospreay. Let's take a listen to what Hunter had to say.
It's a different game. It's a different world. If they're not here to be all in on this, like when I see people that come out of, trying to make it, and then they pick the job where they go, well, they work less, the schedule's lighter. All right, then I'm glad I didn't get you. Okay. Because if you're not in it for the grind, at that point early in your career, you have no business being here.
Okay, so Triple H basically there saying that you're not in it for the grind. If you want to go to a place where you can make good money, but you're only working like 1 day a week, if that's what your priorities are, I don't want you there. You're not a valuable talent to me. That's basically what he said. And look, if Triple H wants people committed to the WWE system, if he wants people committed to the WWE way of doing things, there's nothing wrong with that. But taking a shot there at specific talent, it's kind of bullshit from a perspective of talent, honestly. Like, Triple H's comments here were bullshit to me. And I ain't afraid to say that. It is what it is. Because for me, it's always been a bullshit talking point, right? That if you're not grinding, that you're lazy somehow. If you're not grinding all the time, somehow you're not, as good as, I thought you were. And that's what Triple H is implying there. He's implying that these guys are lazy. He's implying that these guys, they're not good enough. That to say that about, or to imply that about certain talent, including Will Ospreay, which he obviously did, including potentially Kazuchika Okada, which he did. People who've talked about how, the AEW schedule for them was better. Will Ospreay's open about it. He wants to be able to see his family. He wants to be able to live in England. He wants to be able to do all those things. Those are priorities to him, as they should be. As they should be for anyone who, like Will Ospreay, has been busting his ass every single day for the past decade trying to make it in this business, and has gotten to a point where he's finally able to have that choice. And I get it. Hunter is a company guy. He is the CCO, the Chief Content Officer of WWE. What do you expect him to say? Totally hear that. Totally understand that. But at a certain point, we have to be having an honest conversation about these bullshit talking points. That's what this is. It's getting everyone rah, all up for WrestleMania. Get it. Team WWE, stand up, hashtag stand up for WWE, all that stuff. But really, to imply in any way, and for wrestling fans online to say, Will Ospreay, look at it, he's lazy. It's BS to me. And it's not just about wrestling either. Like, it's really not just about wrestling. And I said this on Twitter. Like, regardless of what profession or industry you're in, we should want workers to have a better choice and to make choices that are good for them. And in some cases, it's going to be that grind. People like Cody Rhodes have talked about how he wanted that. He genuinely wanted that when he went to WWE, and that's one of the reasons he went there. That's great. But there are other people who are not going to want that, who are going to want to prioritize time with their family, which I'm sure Those of you out there who have family or have people you care about, you can empathize with that. And I'm not saying that it's a bad thing to be on that grind. No. Yours truly happens to be on that grind probably a little too much sometimes. But that's my choice. That's what I want to do. To fault someone for doing that and to say and imply that they are lazy, to be honest, I would think it's beneath Triple H. And maybe I'm reading too much into it. It's possible. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. But when an executive at a company says that, like, to me, it reads, when Triple H says that, it reads the same as if the head of Ford says that. Oh, these workers, these workers who want a union, these workers who want better benefits, all that kind of stuff, they're lazy. It reads the same. It's that same coded business language, that anti-worker language that Triple H seems to be fine spewing. But at the end of the day, doesn't matter because WWE didn't get Will Ospreay. And maybe if Triple H had made WWE a more enticing place to be, you would have talent like Okada. You would have talent like Will Ospreay. You would have been able to bring back Mercedes Moné. But you didn't. And why is that? Maybe that's the question Triple H should be asking. Maybe that's what he should be focusing on. Maybe that was WWE as a company should be focusing more on instead of complaining and pushing and peddling these bullshit talking points. And if it sounds like I'm getting mad, it's because it's bigger than wrestling. Like normally I don't get like animated or anything about like things that don't have to do with wrestling or that have to do with wrestling. But I'm animated about this because it's bigger than that. It's about how companies treat and view and value workers. And we're getting a textbook example of how little WWE, well, another textbook example, I should say, about how little WWE values their workers. And I ain't saying AEW is better at it. No, AEW just released a few people this week, and I talked about that. But to call out free agents don't want to grind and then expect them to sign with you down the line, to me, that's dumb recruiting too. So it is what it is. Support unions, support workers. And Will Ospreay is a hell of a wrestler. That's all I'm going to say about that. But that is what it is. Moving on, we have bigger and probably more juicy things to talk about here. As Brandi Rhodes, in a recent interview with Progress News, actually shed some light about her and Cody's departure from AEW. She did an interview with Progress News where she was quoted as saying the following, quote, "What I feared with that company, AEW, I was seeing before my eyes. When you start to see things drift from the original vision and pauses, I've seen this happen before, then you start to think, this might not be what we thought it was." And, you know, it is interesting. Cody has talked about this as well. He's talked about how, you know, there were different views about what AEW should be. And that comes with, you know, having multiple people in management. Comes with the perspectives of Tony Khan, who's looking at it from a fan. Comes with the perspective of the Young Buck and Kenny Omega, who have a certain style of wrestling they like. Comes with the perspective of Cody, who's like more of a sports entertainer, right? And that's what he grew up on. So things were bound to like happen like that, I think, as far as like differing views on what AEW should be, what the direction of the company should be. And it seems like here, like you can hear it or you can read it in what Brandi had to say. You know, like it just wasn't what they thought it would be. And it's fine. And Cody said as much. The interesting thing, too, if you combine this with what Cody said, it also adds a little bit more insight into the overall, like, I think, overall thoughts about their departure in AEW, or it at least adds to, you know, the speculation. So Cody was on the MMA Hour this week, and he was speaking about, you know, his wife, Brandi, who's going to be at WrestleMania. We love Brandi, right? And how he felt like she was scapegoated after they left AEW. Here's what he had to say on the MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani.
That woman got hugely scapegoated and hugely just misinformation and everyone knows who they are that was involved with it. And if ever there was a moment for her to just feel like a princess and feel like somebody who did a lot more for wrestling. There's so many people working at AEW who she was the one who said their name. She was the one who wanted to keep them in the fold when something went wrong. And for how she was treated after the departure, and this is not by any company, just in general, it pisses me off to this day. And I look forward to she had a great experience last year at WrestleMania. She felt that love again. And sorry.
No,
That was Cody Rhodes earlier this week on the MMA Hour, with Ariel Helwani, discussing his and Brandi's departure from AEW and how after that departure he felt like he was scapegoated and how she was treated, and he did not like that. And I think Cody in the past has said that he left AEW due to a personal issue. That can mean many things if we look at like the motivations that Cody has explicitly said about leaving AEW or choosing to join WWE. There's the world title thing that he wanted to do. There is, of course, the thing that Brandi mentioned, which are the differing views of what AEW was supposed to be compared to what it ended up being. And then there's what Cody had to say here too, which is like, he felt like his wife was scapegoated. He felt like there were people who were basically spreading misinformation about her, things that weren't true. And it's interesting when you take a listen or you look at the response to it online. Like, I think a lot of it is unfair. I think Brandi for a while has got a lot of unfair criticism. It's one thing not to like the presentation of her on TV or promos or something. Like, that is what it is. We can like stuff, we cannot like stuff as fans, right? But to attack people's character, right, and go after them personally is a whole different ballgame. And I think that is what Cody is alluding to there. And it just seemed like, for both Cody and Brandi, AEW was just not the place they needed to be. That from a booking standpoint, from a creative standpoint, from a personal standpoint, it just seemed like things were not working. And that's okay. People want to think about Cody's departure from AEW as, this watershed moment, which in a way it was, I think, but not to the degree that people think. It was a watershed moment in that it's probably the moment you can point to when WWE really stepped up their game and went to a whole different level as far as their presentation and competed as far as the quality of product with AEW. And then, obviously Vince went away and that helped a lot as well. But in that way, it was a watershed moment. But in reality, a lot of people kind of treat that as, Cody turning his back on AEW, or they treat it as, Cody's this overall rejection of AEW, what it stands for as a company. No, Cody is still complimentary when he talks about AEW. He still says that he is proud of what he did in AEW and proud of what himself and Brandi, who was, remember, the chief brand officer of AEW. She was, I believe, the first ever African-American, definitely African-American woman in a position of that much authority in a North American wrestling company. I believe she was, yeah. So to have her in that place and to be able to accomplish that and be able to say, like, they can go away, they can retire now, both of them can retire now and say that they have made an immeasurable impact on the wrestling business just by virtue of being in the room, being part of those discussions, contributing to those discussions early on at the startup stages of AEW and helping build that company from the ground up. They have made that impact. And just because they had disagreements about the direction of the company, just because, they may have not been happy in the company, that happens. You can work a job for years and love it. And then one day you'll come up, you'll look around, and you'll be like, this is not what it used to be. This is not what I thought it would be at this point. And that's okay, because people change, times change, culture changes, all these things change. They're fluid. Life is fluid. And Cody left. Brandi left. It happens. People move on. People do things that are good for them. And talking about wrestlers doing what's good for them in the earlier segment, we'll talk about it right now. Cody's doing great. He's a much bigger star than he would have been in AEW. That's just the truth. And I'm talking about bigger star as in the popularity, but I'm also talking about bigger star as in box office. It's just true. And he's doing better creative than he was doing. And I've criticized Cody's creative, over the past year ad nauseum. But he is doing better creative than he was in AEW in the last year. Last year in AEW was just atrocious. But it is what it is. Hopefully we can all move on. Like, they're in WWE now, or Cody's in WWE now. It's okay. AEW is still going to get a massive increase on their media rights. They are going to be profitable by the end of that contract, and they're going to be doing a lot of great business. Same for WWE. And that's good for wrestling. So let's put this to bed. But let me know what you guys think about this in the comments section below. I want to hear from you. What do you think about Triple H's comments about free agents and the grind of pro wrestling? Let me know about that in the comments as well. Also, be sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and go over to patreon.com/Real Take Wrestling for exclusive content and much, much more. Until next time, guys, keep it real.